first impression of La Cantera?
Spectacular.
Yeah.
Perfect blend of like the Southwest architecture and motif, but all of the amenities of a luxury resort.
So we've got golf. Mm-hmm. We're contemplating having
an event
some
here.
type of pool event / party.
So that's going to be a great opportunity for sponsor partners and dealer members to get together and talk business.
Yep.
What better setting than right here? All right, guys, welcome to our second preview show for Business Bourbon and Cigars. We got quite a panel here today. I will say that when I was putting this together, I knew that I was going to have two guys that were younger and far better looking than I am in Tim Cox and Danny Zasklavsky. And then I got my partner in crime, Scott Joseph, who is younger. And what's so funny, Tim? Anyhow, I'm excited to have you guys here. We got big news to announce here. You guys have already put out the PR press releases. You announced it at NADA, but this is our formal announcement here to the Business Bourbon and Cigars community. And I'm excited because what you two guys represent are two people who lead two teams that I think really get in terms of what it is to deliver value into the marketplace. You are always thinking of the client first. It's not a matter of, what can best serve our businesses. It's like, how can we best serve our clients? So I think that's what drives your success. So we've got Tim Cox, who is the chief evangelist and co-founder over at CarNow. And we've got Danny Zasklavsky. I can pronounce your name, Danny. Scott has still been trying to work through it phonetically. We're going to give him about another year or two and then see if he can actually master the pronunciation of your last name.
Scott, let me just tell Zasklavsky. So let me just tell you something.
There you go.
When we go pre-show, I practice your name and I never mess up. It comes off like this. And then I go live and I can't say it to save my life. I don't know what the heck. It's like my tongue gets tied.
That is great. Danny is the managing partner and co-founder over at Vincue. I'm rocking my Vincue swag right now. I'm going to show it to the audience. Just cue it, right? Love that tagline. Just cue it.
Right. Nothing against the shirt, but could you raise that? Could you lower yourself back down there?
Listen, the sun's out. The guns are out, Scott. We're bringing everything today to the table. Right. But anyhow, I'm excited about the partnership. And I really would love to share with the audience your backstory in terms of how you guys put this together. I think it makes complete sense when you take a look at the congruency in terms of both of your businesses and the capabilities and skill sets that you guys bring to the equation. So, Danny, I'll start with you. Can you bring us back to where the conversation got started and how it kind of evolved over time to the point where you guys decided to form this strategic partnership?
So I don't know if Tim will remember this, but we met, him and I, when I was still in the car business, as far as like 100% at the car dealership where I'm at right now. But we were at a conference and he walks out after just speaking and I'm watching him and I'm like just connecting with everything he's saying because he's so authentic, he's so kind, and he's real. So like I'm listening to this guy and then I'm starstruck. He gets off on stage. I'm waiting outside in the hallway. He comes out and I go, I got to know everything you're doing because as a dealer, I was like, I need this energy in my car dealership, which I'm going to walk around here in a minute. That's where I'm at now. And at the time, I remember thinking I really wanted to get into technology because I felt like I had more in me to be able to deliver some of these ideas that I can share with other dealers. And I wanted to know like how he made it happen. So that was the first time Tim and I met. And every time since, I've just been chasing him. I mean, really is the answer.
He's the real deal. I kid him all the time for the last 2 years since I've been connected to him that I am the captain of the Tim Cox fan club. So, Tim, why don't you share with us, from your perspective, really the beginnings of the conversation. How did it get started for you?
Yeah, to Danny's point, I do remember that time. And as a matter of fact, I knew Danny was different when he talked about having, Dave Ramsey classes inside his dealership. And that's how he was giving back to the community. So I do remember that. So I knew there was a difference about him that that truly wanted to make a difference, and people talk about it. I call it Sunday school words. People talk about it, but when you see people actually doing it, you want to partner with those people. And then, when he partnered and helped create Vincue to what it is today, obviously the timing I thought was beautiful just because of what's happening in the market and pre-owned and what happened, especially the last 2 years with prices at the auction and everything else. And in now until infinity, it's always better to buy a car off the street, private party. No, we all know the reasons. No seller fees. No, you can see it, smell it, touch it. No transport fees. So that started the conversation. Then every time that he was growing his company, he would come off this stage, and like people would I say swarm. I mean, there would be like 3 or 4 people deep to talk to him to unpack it, because and you've witnessed that. And I do believe, humbly, the success that our company has had. You talk about authenticity. The difference between our two companies, and part of the reason that we knew it was a great idea to partner together, is because, and I'm not throwing stones. You'll never hear me talk. There's a lot of great tech out there. There's a lot of great people out there. But I always say facts trump feelings. The difference between our two companies is our companies were built inside the dealership by car people, for car people.
I love it.
Let's make sure that it works and continue to. Danny still is partners in a dealership. So that is the biggest difference between us and the really reason we kind of put the hammer down and figured out we needed to do something together.
Well, you raise a great point, Tim, and I echo the sentiment. When you live and breathe it every single day, and the solutions are born from experience as opposed to hypothesis, it's a real difference maker. And so I think that that's a common thread with both of your businesses. The other thing I notice is that when we look at what you guys do and how you do it and how your ideation happens within your teams, I think there's another common thread that you guys both build solutions in your businesses based on what the clients need from the client's perspective versus, the level of capability that you currently have or the skill sets that are contained within your teams. You really focus on what's important to the client, and that's what drives a lot of the innovation at both of your companies. Would you guys agree?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what, it's very easy, and I'm learning this as we're creating more capabilities and more solutions, but it's really easy to fall into the trap of when you have the ability to create a tool from the skill set that you already have, it's easy to imagine that it's going to work. But the truth is there's like these little nuances that can really make it fail. And so we start with customer experience first. So I'm going to actually, you're in my BBC right now. So Heidi, you want to say hi? This is Dante. So
Dante, peace.
When you work from the front line and you can create solutions that you can also make changes along the way and get real people working on it, it makes a huge difference. And Tim and I have been talking about this for a while, but call to action forms like buttons on my website that go to a lagging indicator, meaning it goes into my CRM and then I have to be on people to respond quickly. And sometimes I'm either not having the right template or the CRM is not sending the right communication back out to the consumer. And it makes me look like I have cake on my face. I want real-time conversations. I want real people because my website is my digital front door. But in order to arm my team and myself with insights, real information, we got to be able to answer questions like instill confidence. So what's the vehicle's value? What's the history of the car? What's the reconditioning of the car? Instead of having to get up and go to the desk and ask a question or go to the finance office and ask a question, that information has to be at our fingertips. That's where you start thinking about what are the tools I actually need in order to compete today. And technology can fix that, but you can't do it inside of a development box. You have to be in a car dealership.
Well, I think it speaks to TC's point, which is both of your businesses were born from need within the marketplace, right? Opportunity within the marketplace, certainly accelerated with respect to what we experienced the last 2.5 years. But I inverted that perspective myself, and I thought about, the last 2.5 years aside, the next 2 to 3 years are going to be even more challenging than we anticipated 2 years ago. And I really see your solution, your strategic partnership, as being a way for dealers to not just survive, but also leverage and prosper the opportunities that they have, in the next 2 to 3 years, as this market goes through a bit of a, I'll say, metamorphosis with respect to how we do business and what the economy is going to do in terms of the impact, on dealerships. So you want to speak to that at all, TC?
Well, you just, you have to address pain points. Danny addressed the pain point of, and then it evolved from there of how do you take advantage and really communicate in such a way that a private party seller feels more comfortable and would rather go to the local dealership and get a check versus worry about getting scammed or whatever.
Right.
And they've nearly perfected it, and it's working. And in fact, not that I need another reason, but just, some of the best, brightest dealers in the country put Vincue through the ringer and said, hey, Danny, why about this? They went back, made some, like Patrick Abad at Beaver Toyota, which now is the largest dealership in, not only Toyota dealership in Georgia. And when guys like that are saying, hey, Tim, you guys, it would be amazing if you guys partner together. Now you got one source of truth, because at the end of the day, I've said it since we started CarNow, you can't buy or sell a car without a conversation.
Absolutely.
You have to have a conversation, whether that starts with automated workflows to funnel the dealer down. There are some things that just aren't debatable. So addressing the pain point, and look, we are, I'm happy and I'm proud of our dealers for having the best 2 years in the history of automotive. We have to get back to selling cars again, which, we're very thankful. We had the best January we've ever had in our history. We tripled it because, look, yes, we launched a new desking and showroom tool. Yes, we announced the partnership with Vincue and a few other things, but we have to go back to the basics again. I love the Bill Belichick method or terminology. Even after he wins, even after a Super Bowl, and Nick Saban, whoever, he's thinking about getting back to it and training. Sure. And even when we win, like we did the last 2 years, we missed this year. This is where we can get better. And I think a big part of that obviously is acquiring vehicles and managing your inventory. And then obviously the communication, because, dealers are spending tens of thousands, some dealer groups, millions of dollars a month to get people to go to their website. And then they just come in, they click, they throw them into the CRM, and that's it.
Yeah.
Mastering the simple fundamentals always produce the best results.
100%.
Yeah, we call it mastering the mundane. And, it's funny, my right-hand guy, Ron Marvel, and I were up in upstate New York yesterday with a brand new client, number one in their market for their brand, a real winner, in terms of culture. But, I spoke with the dealer principal and the GM, and their single biggest concern was that the last 2 years plus has been such a game of shooting fish in a barrel, if you will, for lack of a better way of putting it, that they really wanted to focus on sharpening and returning to what you're talking about, Tim and Scott, which is the fundamental skills that we need to engage the people that we are doing business with on a regular basis. And, we've been able to kind of jump the curve a little bit in terms of the sales process. We've got to get back to taking people through a process that makes sense for them and serves their needs, as opposed to, the quote unquote highly efficient model we've been using for the past 2.5 years, highly profitable and highly efficient model. So,
Sandy, did you say that was a new client?
It was a new client, my friend. Yes. So
that's a big risk, taking on a new client that's already ranked number one. There's only one direction for you.
Listen, my man, they only seek us out when they're at the top of the heap. We want to keep them there. That's the goal. Everybody wants to play King of the Mountain, right?
That's right. It's like Spizak, like David likes to say, right? It's easy to climb there. It's a lot harder to live up there and stay there.
You ain't kidding, buddy. And those of us not afraid of the altitude, we'll take on those challenges, Scott, just for the record. Anyhow, so let's get back to our friends here at hand. So, talk a little bit about from a beneficiary perspective, because, one of the things that we have talked about, prior to jumping on here today, Danny and Tim, is that your solution is really geared to level the playing field for dealers large and small, franchised or independent. Talk a little bit about that aspect of the partnership and how it's going to benefit your clients moving forward.
Tim, you want to start, or you want me to take that one?
No, go ahead.
So at Vincue, our number one goal is to give more control to the people doing the valuations, because Vincue starts at the point of appraisal, and at the point of appraisal, we have information like where's that vehicle been across its whole journey, which car dealership where it's at, did it go through an auction, what CR did it have at the time, and we also want to be able to see, unlike some lagging indicators, perhaps looking at auction figures or even book figures, we want to see what are the vehicles retailing for today. And a recent indicator we're really looking at is average price drop. So at point of appraisal, if I'm buying this car today, but they're actively dropping in price $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 because of the softening, that's really important information for me to have when I'm doing an appraisal, not to mention when the car gets ingested in on it. Mm-hmm. All of that is meaningful in having a conversation with a consumer, whether they're buying or they're selling, to instill confidence. I used to say auctions only exist to create confidence between a buyer and a seller. And, we're paying $600 a car. Why do we need to pay those kind of fees for confidence? We should be working with each other. Well, the same thing happens when you're working with a consumer. If you're not instilling that confidence live in a communication, somebody else is. So real-time conversations armed with those types of insights allow for meaningful connections, because the public looks at us as the experts in the field, and the game's changing so quickly, right? So we have to be able to have information a la carte available to us right now that doesn't end up in, let me get back to you. It actually ends up in, here's the information, I can push it. That paired with visualizations that actually give some perspective to the consumer, I think is a really powerful one too, because websites is a customer experience, right? It's a digital customer experience. Yep. So why wouldn't you have live conversations happening armed with all those insights on demand?
Agreed. I think you touch upon 2 points, which is transparency and then speed of response, the efficiency in terms of your ability to respond, and that's what heightens that level of trust, between the dealer and the consumer, and trust is the foundation for everything that we're doing here today. Especially going through what we've gone through for the last couple of years, from a business perspective, anything that we can do to facilitate more efficient real-time communication, I think all it does is enhance the trust factor between parties.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, no question. TC, from your perspective?
Again, it's taking, Danny said it, you said it, and it's our entire, theme. Well, not our entire theme, but it's real time. It's, talking to a customer before we take that live, living, breathing customer. Again, whether they're buying, selling, or servicing an automobile, right now, you've paid to get them to your website. So most vendors, if they pat themselves on the back when they produce a lead, and my lead percentage is this. I had a dealer, the most compelling podcast that we did, and interview that we did probably in the last year, was from Bob Warner at Warner Mazda. I'm going to go up and see Bob next month, but actually later this month. One of the smallest PMAs in the country. Manchester, New Hampshire, the entire city is 100,000 as far as Mazda stores. And out of 538 Mazdas, I think that number is, it's low 500 Mazda stores. Somebody can correct me. I'm sure they will. He's number 32. I'm going to say that again. Out of 500 with the lowest. Yep. And what we're trying to do together, and what we have constantly tried to do, he made this statement: a lead is a failure to get a customer inside the door. So when you add communication aspects, no matter what point that dealership's touching your website or chat or wherever they're at, or that ad, that is the big difference. And obviously he believes it in his store, and he's got processes that we can talk about another time to make sure that he literally touches. And I believe, obviously, Danny's tool is web-based as well. People also talk about, again, back to the Sunday school words. We can say whatever we want in Clubhouse. We can say whatever in here. But most dealerships today even when the climate's changing, they treat a online lead, a chat, a Vincue lead, whatever, different than they do here when they're in the store. And the reason that Bob Werner is number 32 out of 500 plus Mazda dealers in one of the smallest top 10 or whatever, 15 smallest PMAs is because he treats those people that touch his website almost a better experience that gets them into the door. So when you partner, you know, I envision our partnership with Danny and his team. It's like Megatron, you know, it's like two best of breeds, you know, Optimus Prime and all these. And we create this freaking massive transformer that serves our dealers, and it gives them mega power. And we're putting a solution together. And I'll let Danny touch on the website piece, since that's his piece, that we're going to have an offering to dealerships, big, small, franchise, independent, that is really going to be a game changer. That's going to allow them to compete with the big boys and the small boys, but at the end of the day, pick up market share in this market and own their market.
You just tapped on something that Scott and I have talked about ad nauseum. Scott, you can look that up later on. You just use Google. It's ad nauseum, just so you know. What we've talked about it a ton over the years in terms of market share, how important it is to capture and grow market share, because that is the key to sustainability in terms of your business. Once that market share is captured, it's awful hard for those whom you've captured it from to win it back. And so I think you raised a great point.
I think the biggest point he raised is just the fact that what makes this guy good, and that's the fact that he treats the client better at the very beginning. Almost, he reverses the norm, and to me, that makes the most sense, because if there's a showroom lead, more than likely it started probably 99% of the time, 95% of the time, it started on the internet anyways. And so this whole digital lead, this digital retailing, whatever we want, I just, to me, that language needs to go away, because there's just a lot of different ways that clients can come into the store. Most of it always starts online, and the client experience starts there. It doesn't start once they show up. So if you want a higher percentage of people eventually coming in, buying, or taking an order, or buying online and then delivering, whatever that might be, if your goal is to move them down that funnel, all right, whatever that funnel is for the store, that experience has to be great from the very beginning. And so I applaud Mr. Warner's approach to that, because I think that it's spot on.
You have a digital experience, right? If you look at it like a timeline, you have a digital experience with, and I remember always being trained, it's like meet and greet, qualify, assess needs, and then test drive, and then, you know, are you selling from your seat or on your feet? It's all that traditional sales process stuff. And the lesson from that today for me is the process still exists. But when you look at it from a customer experience standpoint first, then you can know where a new tool, a new capability fits within that process to enhance it. Instead of saying, I got this thing, what am I going to do with it? It's a slightly different approach. So Tim, I completely agree with you on what Mr. Warner said around lead versus customer, because that is such a different customer experience than it is being treated like a number, and you can feel it. It's visceral, right? So one of those things that I'm really excited about in our partnership, acquisition, we're constantly working to flip the number, where if a store is buying 70% at the auction, 30% trade or private party, we try to flip that number so that it's 70% through different channels, because there's so many benefits throughout the dealership. CarNow is helping us create a best-in-class and first-in-class acquisition communication system, so that we can get out to the consumers where they are, and increase that conversion through good experiences, not just through volume. And there's so many lead providers today that sell leads, acquisition leads, and dealers expect them on a silver platter. But if you look at them, the conversions are super low. And the reason the conversions are low is because the customer experience isn't good. So when you can create more meaningful connections this way, all of a sudden everybody wins.
Yeah, it's communication as a pathway to conversion. Ultimately, we get so hyper focused on the numbers, right? The statistics. What are our conversion rates? And we lose sight of the fact that what drives higher quote unquote conversion rates is more effective, real time, client focused communication.
Client focused.
In a way that
the other thing, sorry, this just hit me.
No, that's
strategy. So I just got out of a meeting right before this where we're talking about strategy on what we're doing for second quarter around selling cars, incentives, used car incentives, things like that. Well, that strategy is unique to me. But when I remember creating, before we had Vincue, creating websites, utilizing our market pricing tool, and it was built to be good for many, but it wasn't, I'd have to create other processes off system solutions in order for me to actually implement my strategy. And so I knew when we were building the solution that that we had to make it so that we can ingest a dealership strategy. One example of that is appraisal values. If I go to many of the appraisal sources that exist right now, they produce a number, but that number doesn't necessarily mean it's the number I want to pay. Right, it's not taking into consideration my recon, my gross, my percent, my cost to market, my appetite to buy a newer car or an older car, or for it to even understand my sales or my market demand or any of those considerations. And that's at the end of the day a failure to the customer. Yeah, I'm not going to buy or sell more vehicles, but really it's a failure to the customer because I'm not accurately giving them the result that they want. So that's why I'm excited about this partnership, because it takes what we know and what we're busting our butt every single day to create custom strategy for our dealerships and merging it with real-time digital retailing, real-time conversations. And now you have brain and heart together.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. Anytime we start with the client's experience or the client desired result in mind and build from there, you're virtually guaranteed success if you can execute. There's no doubt in my mind.
Listen,
I want to talk a little bit about in terms of timeline for you guys as you move forward. We do have scrolling across the bottom of the screen a URL that people can go to if they want more information. And I would strongly recommend, if you do, get to the front of the line now, because I have a very sneaky suspicion this is going to be a high demand product offering as a result of the strategic partnership. So make sure you get to the URL you see scrolling at the bottom. But, Tim, can you talk in terms of what you guys have discussed in terms of when you're going to go live and really have an opportunity for new clients to experience this?
Yeah, I think we're a couple months away. I mean, with anything else, we learn by listening. Like I mentioned, Patrick and others that are already using both of our tools are already giving us some ideas. I think that's really important as you continue to develop. We just need to integrate what we're already doing together. And that'll be coming along, and then we'll get some dealers on and then be able to test and get feedback and then move on. But we will have it's going to be ready to rock and roll, Q2.
Awesome. And so you're taking input from dealers like Patrick Abad and others who are using both tools to give you guys ideas. I think that's a great way to source ideas, obviously, from the people that are already using it. Are you seeing more and more of the overlap in terms of your two books of business where you're getting people that are voluntarily giving you the information? Are you soliciting it? How can people provide you with feedback that you think may be of value?
Well, I mean, again, we've had a list, a pretty long list that was, I go in and out of dealerships and, find out who they're using, even obviously for other aspects of their store that aren't related to what we do. And, as I look, in fact, I was at Digital Dealer and somebody came to my booth and they were asking me a bunch of questions. As I look across Digital Dealer, and even as I looked across NADA, there's very few, and this isn't being ugly, there's very few disruptors, right? There's very few disruptors in a space that's, there's a lot of competition. And I would argue, especially early on, we were a massive, disruptor. We were the first company in any vertical Too bad you can't patent software. But in any vertical to do, or it'd be there'd be a beach in my background like Scott. But and I am at home. I apologize. I haven't been home in weeks, and I got home and I got to get dressed and head back out to Cincinnati. But that's a whole other story. So please don't judge me. But
no white wigs and black robes here. Scott's wearing a wig today. But,
I know. Well, I think, yeah. Well, he's got to do what he's got to do. It's hard to look that pretty all the time. But somebody's got to do it. And, but this, pre-show, he talks about pre-show. He had a few curlers in his hair and, he had a little makeup touch up.
Curl up this front part.
Sometimes there's more work. And unfortunately, I lost my entire train of thought. Just staring at.
Well,
you were talking about
that's neither here nor there. So you were going.
You were talking about disruptors.
Yeah, disruptors, and we were a disruptor, and we, that's why we, and quite frankly, just an example, last year and even now, the big word and buzzwords were end to end, click to sign, do everything online. Right. But when we studied, and we were down that path. And we studied customer behavior, not what the buzzwords, but customer behavior said, yeah, they want to do a lot of work online. But most people, when they get that work done, they still want to come inside the dealership. So that's why we pivoted and did desking and showroom. And now that we're partnering that with Danny, Danny's a disruptor. Vincue is a disruptor, to disrupting the old guard on the way things did things. And when you get those dealers that are the largest in their space, biggest market share that are singing you from the mountaintops, people take listen. So again, just a reassurance, excited about partnering. And again, he's a good, him and his entire team. There's a lot of people with great partner products out there, but they're quite frankly, the
tell Zach
is not there.
Tell Zach, someone, I'm looking at this message. Please, someone tell Zach to check his Facebook message. I sent him a message that addresses exactly what he's talking about here. I've already sent it. I sent it in advance.
I did not know you're a Bengals fan.
Oh yeah.
So I have. That's a whole. We'll have another podcast on why I know unequivocally the NFL is rigged after some non-roughing the passer.
Yes.
It is absolutely rigged.
Or the two guys holding our guy. I mean, it was
Danny,
just awful.
Phantom whistles, and Danny's a KC fan. So phantom whistles. We're chasing rabbits, but
listen, we've already won 3 out. We've already won 3 out of the last 4. At some point, I knew it was going to be hard to win 4 in a row.
Well, it's not a rivalry. The other guy has to actually win 1.
Correct.
So they got to win 1, and quite frankly, that's the same thing as Vincue and CarNow's partnership. Other people.
I'm not picking sides here because I don't watch the NFL too much.
Well,
but what
I've
I
got
will
a couple
say is
questions.
that hold on, Mahomes has won where it counts. He's got the win in the big game.
That was before Joe. That's before Joe ever entered the league.
I understand. Right. I understand. Now let's go back to what Tim was saying about disruption, because I think it speaks to a bigger point, right? Which is, there's a lot of safe choices out there in the marketplace for dealers. The 800-pound gorilla brands that are in the marketplace today that are safe choices for dealers and GMs to make, when it comes to making a decision about products that they do business with or companies they do business with. But what I love about the fact that you guys do is you are disruptors and you're innovators, and you build better products than the bigger companies that are out there because you're nimbler, you're more connected to your client base, you're able to disrupt through getting feedback and real-time implementation in terms of some of the things that you're hearing from the users of your platforms. And I think that that's a distinct competitive advantage for you guys over those giants in the marketplace. And so I would encourage dealers, independent, franchised, or otherwise, to take a look at players like CarNow and Vincue, because quite honestly, their solutions, I'm just going to say, they're better and they're more responsive at the end of the day.
So
I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but
no. So, in a crowded marketplace, to become industry leading, you cannot, everyone wants to differentiate themselves. And so you guys are differentiating yourselves, right? You're becoming industry leading by this strategic alliance that you formed, taking 2 great things, making them work together to produce an even better 1 + 1 = 3, in essence. For a dealer, everyone talks about differentiating themselves, rising above the noise and all this
Right.
other stuff, but they tend to want to focus doing that only with their marketing message. When in reality, you can differentiate yourself through your client experience, through different products, services, processes.
Yes.
And so what you guys have done is you've broke through traditional boundaries and actually give an opportunity for a dealer and yourselves to differentiate yourselves in a crowded market. And that's what I like. I have a question though. So both of you are tech companies. It's been my experience, and I love that you're working beta in this through Patrick, because for one reason, that's high volume store, but another reason is he's very innovative, and he's on that. He believes in differentiating himself, right? He's not afraid to take risks. How much of, and maybe you don't want to tell us this, and maybe you don't want to get specific. I hope you do. How much of it from your original idea, all right, started here, and now you've been out there, and Patrick's been using it. How much of his feedback has already been like you've already completely changed the thing to where you're like, wow, we thought we were going to do this, but it really needs to do this, this, and this. Has that happened yet? Or
so I'll take a bite off that a little bit. So I think that's truly what's innovative is when you're taking live conversations, live transactions happening, and then mirror the experience online, and then give the system the flexibility to make changes along the way. So the answer is it is a living thing. It continues to evolve, and the people that interact with the system, whether it's from the BDC or from the salesperson or from the desk, all have different needs. And you've got to be able to meet those needs for the consumer. So it is a living, breathing thing, and if you build it as a fixture, then you're going to be outdated in a month or in a few months. So it is
you're not going to sell anything,
or you're not going to sell anything.
Well, but Scott, I would say to Danny's point, right, is that's exactly what happens, and I'm not taking shots at anybody specific here, but I see that in a lot of the larger companies that are out there, the more well-established, I'll call them legacy platforms that are out there, they stop innovating. And they start just protecting the customer or client base that they've already got. And I believe that leads to atrophy, in terms of the solution that they provide. That's what I love about what these two guys do with their teams. And the fact that they've now partnered together is just the lift will be exponential in terms of the impact on the dealer world.
One of the biggest compliments when I was on the dealer side 100% was when I could offer some sort of need and then see that need reflected in the solution that I was using. I mean, that was like the biggest thing, right? I felt like I was having an impact on the world,
absolutely
bigger than myself. And that's the culture that I feel at CarNow, and that's the culture I feel at Vincue. So,
I do believe it, and I'm going to be fully transparent. Look, I don't. What you see with me is what you get. I pull no punches. I'm completely transparent. What we're trying, especially now. There are dealers. If the one word that I could speak into every dealership right now, there's a lot of dealers because certain things are mandated by the OEM. You've got to use these three and that have just bought something, checked the box, and they set it and forget it. It bewilders me that I've got groups. I think you guys may know Sean Seltzer. We just went live with the whole group several months back. He with the Castle Automotive Group. He comes into the booth and says, actually helped us put a deal together. He says, I nearly have quadrupled not only the leads, which are important, the amount of cars that I was selling through this tool. So how can I have that type of results with that type of testimony, and then I have somebody cancel in 30 days? That's what I'm trying to unpack. That's why I'm trying to go on shows like this. Listen to people, get the right team together. And with my voice and Andy's voice, and obviously everybody knows and loves Bob Lanham. There's a reason Bob Lanham left Facebook, i.e. Meta, to partner. You talk about making a difference. I tell dealers all the time, and hopefully you guys know my heart. This isn't conceit. This is confidence. Don't even look at my report. We talk about compute, and now it's going to be the exact same with Vincue. Going to be the exact same. Don't even look at we're going to give self-generated reports from CarNow and Vincue. Don't look at your own source report. Tag your own source report. And I am so confident. I've been saying this for 7 years and no one's ever taken me up on it because I've never had to pay it. If we do not raise the ROI, I used to have vendors come into my dealership when I was at the Lexus store. You guys crushed it last month. Well, how did I crush it? Well, look, this is how many unique visitors you had this last month. This is how many cars did I sell? Did I service more cars? Did I sell more cars? No, I can't go to the grocery store and say, hey, here's all my groceries. I had 20,000 unique visitors. How many cars do you sell? So that's what you talk about. Danny making a difference. Us making a difference. I dare you. I dare you. I dare you. Take the challenge.
I think I have a sneaky suspicion what Scott's going to respond.
Full the 90 days. If we're not selling more cars, then don't pay us a dime. Period.
Right.
Not being pious, not being prideful.
Chip Perry taught me a filter. He says DISC. I said, what does DISC stand for? He goes, doesn't sell cars. You got to run it through that filter.
Yeah. Yes. I love it.
I don't.
I always like it
about anything else.
I love it when vendors come in and say, hey, we sold you 40 cars, 50 cars. Well, how come I didn't sell 40 to 50 more than I did last month? I don't know.
It's cannibalism.
If we added up, I always say, if we added all the cars up together that all the vendors say they sold us, we'd be selling thousands a month. And then, but
stop calling them vendors, Scott. They're business partners.
Well, I'm a vendor. I'm just making making light of the whole situation. Everybody does.
I know you are. Yeah, I think when I'm listening to Tim speak about that, and I'm saying to myself, right, like that is the true measure, right? And so you do have the ability to sit down and say, did I or did I not see an improvement or a lift in the performance of my dealership? And that level of transparency, to me, that's the litmus test right then and there. And to your point, Tim, is that's the answer. That is the only answer that matters. We can talk about all the statistics that drive our businesses behind the scenes. The only ones that matter is to Danny's point.
I'm not saying you don't need to look at that stuff. You need to look at that stuff because you got to measure it. But at the end of the day, if you're tagged and you're selling or servicing a vehicle or purchasing a vehicle, and it came directly from Vincue, you're buying a car. So somebody, Steve Woody Woodpecker came on and said, "Hey boys, no bourbon," and it threw me off.
It's right
What's up there, Steve?
If it's not selling cars, then quite frankly, it's pretty simple. But it's literally just that simple.
But that becomes the least common denominator, right? That's where we need to go to see whether or not you continue with the relationship. Because at the end of the day, that's the only thing that's going to matter in the end, right?
We're going to know because we're also installing right now, over the last 2 weeks, we've been installing CarNow at my car dealership at Country Hill Motors. So we're the other beta partner and setting up all the reporting we need to actually see the difference because you can't serve what you can't also do yourself.
Guys, one of the goals of Business Bourbon and Cigars is really we want to foster, collaboration, innovation, which is why it's important that we have people like yourselves there. We want to create like a really supportive environment, right? Where whether it's our members test new strategies and then they bounce it off each other and you get this feedback. What I love about what you're doing with your own store, Danny, with Patrick, is it's kind of, you're taking the same approach, not to say the same approach as the event, but you're taking the same approach of like, we're going to collaborate together because we think we've got a breakthrough solution here that really differentiates everything. We're going to test it. We're going to work together and support each other because let's face it, you're getting support from Patrick, but that's a two-way street there.
Right.
You guys are working together. It's not, he's probably also learning things by using this new way of saying he's benefiting just as much, not from what the tool's doing, but just the collaboration and working back and forth as well. So to get that feedback going two-way street and to support each other like that, I think is outstanding. I love it.
Well, it's the difference. And you're the one that pointed this out, Scott. You said we first elevated the whole Business Bourbon and Cigars mastermind platform. You said, I don't want best practices. I want breakthrough, opportunities for the attendees.
Correct.
And that's on both sides. Whether you're a dealer member or sponsored partner makes no difference. The level of collaboration we're seeing, and this is such a cool thing to note, right? We're seeing an incredible partnership develop like we have here with Tim and Danny and their teams. And we talk about like Arnold Gasita with
He's doing it with
Petra
me.
distributor with Brady Schmidt with a Petra distributorship.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many different things that are going on outside of just masterminding, the collaboration of relationships, and these guys are a living, breathing example of what we've been trying to foster. And it's humbling to watch and to witness and be part of. And I appreciate you two guys for that, because you know, you're the vanguard, if you will, for what we see moving forward and what we're all going to need. By the way, we're going to need to continue to break through over the course of the next 2 to 3 years some significant challenges that we'll face.
Well, it's interesting. There was a comment you put up very early in the show. Somebody had said when the dealers and the vendors work together, something about that. I can't remember. There
Right
he is.
here, Steve Apicella, who, by the way, Steve,
Yeah.
I owe you an apology. We did not connect at NADA, but you know, it looks like I lit my hair on fire because I did. That's how I ran around NADA. My apologies, but go ahead, Scott.
I think his comment is 100% spot on. And so there's so much to learn when you can coordinate people that have different experiences and different sets of knowledge and different achievements, even and quite honestly, even coordinate people that might have different networks or relationships with various groups of people. When you can bring all that together, the goal is to create a very, an advantage for everyone involved. And I think that's what's happening here when you get the right people together. So I love it.
Scott, I used to, again, when I was 100% on the dealer side, there were moments where I fell into the trap of forgetting the humanity on the other side of the technology. I forgot that it was people that were building these things and that were sitting around thinking about what the heck are they going to do to make the world better. So what Steven just said points to the humanity in it. And NADA, walking around, actually getting to meet the people that are creating this stuff, that was my biggest takeaway.
Yeah.
Amen.
You know, two points, and I'll land my plane. I think that the reason that we're partnering together, because Danny possesses this quality, unfortunately, not just in the automotive space, when people, and this is a leadership thing, I truly believe, and it's a hard issue, when people have a little bit of success, they become the smartest person in the room. And when they become the smartest person in the room, they think they've got it figured out. We've got 5,000 dealers. We're approaching 6. We're doing this. And it's very in dealership. We're the number one in our PMA, and whatever it is, it's walking into a conference room wanting to learn from every single person in that room. And to Danny's point, as far as technology, we need to get dealers to understand. I heard this analogy at NADA. It's not original to me, but I think it's brilliant. Whether it's Vincue or CarNow or whatever, my Starbucks app, I can order my Starbucks on my Starbucks app. It's easy. Takes seconds. The second I go to my Starbucks and something's wrong with it requires action on the other end. So I promise you, Starbucks would have an issue if orders all across the world would start, if they didn't put milk in this, if they didn't, you see what I'm saying? So I really believe that once people get it, Steve's supposed to be working right now, but he's not. He's just making fun of everything around. One day I'll get there, but he's. I think actually Sandy is pulling his best Steve.
This show is brought to you by Hims.
Yeah, brought to you by him. That's beautiful. That's great. That's great. But at the end of the day, and Steve's ruining everything now, so appreciate that, Steve. No, in all seriousness, I do believe as long as we understand, we got to develop the process on the other end. We win, and it doesn't take much because there's a lot of great technology out there.
There is, but to your point, I'm going to dub NADA 2023 the return to humanity, especially after a break, with the lockdowns and whatnot. I felt like 2023, I went in with a lot of skepticism, and I rolled out of there saying it renewed my faith in the people end of our business. People were so excited to be back engaged with other people. And I was inspired by what I saw around that expo floor. It's certainly what I saw, the buzz around the 2 booths that you guys had for sure. But I'm inspired by the people getting back together again and what's happening right now.
What is inspired a question in my head from from Tim's comment about not being the smartest guy in the room, I think, Sandy, you should pose a poll question to our audience real quick and let them vote with comments who they feel like is the smartest. I just don't want to come in last. I don't want to come in first or second. I just don't want to come in last. So I want to do a poll question as to
Scott, listen, here's the deal. I walk into every room knowing I am not the smartest guy in the room, and I don't ever want to be. But I know for sure on this panel right here that I am bringing up the rear, and that's okay with me. I'm okay. I have elevation by association. It's as simple as that.
And not just in your shoes.
Right, exactly. Well, guys, let's round it out because I know everybody has lots to do. It's a Friday afternoon, and here's Steve Apicella one more time. I want to give him an opportunity. Technology, when designed and deployed correctly, doesn't remove in-person engagements. It enhances and propels it by removing the long-standing pain points. There shouldn't be a tug of war between people and updated processes. The two can and should coexist together. Absolutely.
Wow.
Steve, to that point. Yeah, I mean, that's it. We can close it on that. I mean, the whole idea is to amplify the human impact using technology, data, and all these resources. And I think your partnership is going to do exactly that. It's going to elevate the game for everybody that takes advantage of it. But I want to say thank you to you guys. I said it off screen. I'm going to say it on screen. Scott and I are so appreciative of the partnership that we have with you guys. Through Business Bourbon and Cigars, the relationship that we have that has bloomed over the course of the last 2 years plus. You guys are leading the way, truthfully. And I know you're too humble, both of you, to acknowledge that, but you're doing things that we need a lot more people to do in terms of leading with humility, being inspired by the people that you serve and that you serve with. And that's propelling the innovation at both of your businesses. And we're a better industry as a result of it. So I'm just giving you a huge foot stomp and amen, and thank you for that. So I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, we appreciate. I'm speaking for Danny. We appreciate you as well. Those conferences are a lot of fun, and it all boils down to this. Ladies and gentlemen, just with technology, whatever you're using, and what we're doing, Danny and I together, our companies, is stop chasing your customers and start serving them, and watch what happens. Love it.
Good point.
Love it. By the way, I wanted to give it another shout out below. You can see scrolling is the URL that these guys have set up. If you want to get more information, make sure you jump over to that page and just, get in line right now so that you can be the first to know as developments evolve with this partnership. It's going to happen quickly, and you're going to want to be there at the very beginning. But Scott, any last thoughts?
No, I was going to say you ought to copy and paste Steve's comment there on that last one. Both of you, it's a great little description you can put on your websites as to how you're helping people. So, it all writes, once you put the comment up, Sandy owns this here. So this is his stream. So
right, there you go.
He'll sell that copy to you guys. So he'll sell that copy.
Well, I want to give a shout out to some folks, Zach, Angela, Wendy Reeves, appreciate you jumping on. Steve Apicella, Malcolm, everybody that's out there watching right now and participating. Hope you got some great info from these guys and are as excited as we are. Once again, I'll remind everybody, March 7th through the 9th, we've got a couple of dealer or manager seats available right now. Scott and I were able to squeeze a couple of more seats out of the folks at La Cantera. We add them as we need them. And so at the end of the day, it's a first come, first served deal. So you can go. I will be there. What's that?
I said I will be there, and I'm very excited.
Oh yeah,
about
brother.
It.
Yeah, we're gonna mix a little tequila in this year too, guys. So just FYI, just so you know that we're not monopolizing the experience with bourbon.
We're in Texas.
Tequila there.
We're in Texas. We have to. It's going to be the welcome reception is going to be a fun night for the sponsor partners.
No question.
We got a little twist on what we're doing here.
Yeah, and if you want more information, if as a dealer or manager, go to businessbourbonCigarsForDealers.com. It's businessbourbonCigarsForDealers.com, and make sure you register and get your hotel squared away ASAP. In the meantime, guys, we got to step up to stand out because we got to get out of here and go enjoy the weekends. I appreciate you guys. I'm humbled by our friendship and partnerships.
Yes,
thank you guys.
Thank you all.
Guys, have a great weekend, everybody, and let's close it out with a little sizzle.
First impression of La Cantera.
spectacular.
Yeah.
Perfect blend of like the Southwest architecture and motif, but all of the amenities of a luxury resort.
So
But,
we've got golf.
Mm-hmm.
We're contemplating having
An event
some
here.
type of pool event/party.
So that's going to be a great opportunity for sponsor partners and dealer members to get together and talk business.
Yep.
What better setting than right here?